Welcome to Your Mac Life for Wednesday, February the 3rd, 2016, show number 1078. I am your host, Shawn King. Thank you guys very much for joining us, whether you're tuned into the archive or listening in live like all the cool folks in the IRC channel. On tonight's show, we're going to be talking to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com about, he seemed to have touched a nerve, him and Walt Mossberg today. Mossberg started off with a column about Apple software quality, and Jim jumped on the bandwagon. I don't think he jumped on the bandwagon, but Jim joined in with his comments and a bunch of comments on the Loop and other places on the Mac web. And I think part of the issue is that, and we said this before, we expect so much more from Apple, so that when the software, which we interact with all the time and changes all the time, the hardware doesn't change. When you plug in when you turn your Mac on, it stays that way. But we're using different software and using it constantly. So I think we noticed the bugs of hardware a lot more. I think Gruber also pointed out that you can't have hardware bugs. Hardware's got to be right out of the gate because you can't do an over-the-air update to the hardware. Whereas some companies, maybe even Apple, have been push software out too fast when it's not ready because they know they can fix it down the line. We'll talk to Jim about that. We'll also talk about the Apple market cap. I said this when it first happened 2 years ago, when Apple passed Exxon to become the world's most valuable company. It was a story then, and it was a story for a good reason. We'll talk about that later. But now that Apple has been surpassed by Google, oh wait, no, Apple has now surpassed Google, the media treats this like it's a story. It's not a story. It literally is of zero importance whatsoever. We'll talk to Jim about that. We'll also talk about, in our starting point photography segment, what's the best camera for, excuse me, what's the best camera for you? The best camera you can buy for you. I was doing a photo critique class this past weekend, and then a couple weeks ago I was up in Prince George, British Columbia, teaching classes up there. And that's generally one of the most common questions. Is, I want to buy a new camera. What's the best camera for me? And I'll answer that question later on in the show. As always, send us emails to onair@yourmaclifeshow.com if you want to send me a comment or a question or anything like that, whether it be about photography or whatever we talk about on the show. onair@yourmaclifeshow.com. Brian, man, it's going to be a tough show. I can just tell. Brian Monroe says, Shawn, it's Alphabet, not Google. Yeah, I know. I'm going to keep calling it Google. I know it's Alphabet. I know. It's Google. Shut up. How many of you guys use a read it later type app, whether you use a note-taking app like Evernote or Instapaper or Pocket, which is my personal favorite? Well, I got this odd kind of email from the folks at Pocket today, and it said that I was in the top 1% of all Pocket readers. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I'm not 100% sure that that's really a thing that I want to be part of. Hang on, I got the wrong window here. I'm not really 100% sure that's really something I want to be part of. But it's interesting that for those who don't know, the read it later services are things that, so you see this article on a website. You just don't have time to read it right now. You want to read it later. That's what they call them, read it later apps. Pocket and Instapaper are the two most popular. So you click on a little button on your browser, and it sends it off to their servers where they hold on the article for you. And you read it later either on your iOS devices or on your Macintosh. I do this a lot through the day because I'm a voracious reader. I've got literally over 1,000 websites I hit almost every single day. So I'm reading thousands and thousands of words every single day. And some of them just aren't important at that moment, but things I want to read later on. So I tend to do this in the evenings or in bed. I'll read a lot. I don't read novels anymore. I don't read magazines very much anymore. I read stuff I've seen on the web at night lying in bed with the iPad. So there's this email, Shawn King's Year in Review, and it says, what does it say? It says, huzzah, give yourself a pat in the back, you deserve it. And like I said, I don't know if this is... you read a ton in Pocket. You read a ton in Pocket this year and earned a spot in our top 1% of all readers. Give yourself a pat in the back, you deserve it. So apparently I've read 5.1 million words in Pocket, 109 books. That's the equivalent thereof. I guess it's a lot. I don't. My most saved topics are current events, food and dining, recipes, movies, and sport, which is, yeah, I can see that. And then they've got a bunch of suggestions of people that I should follow. Interestingly enough, they also mentioned that I'm not going to tweet that out from their link, but it has a new aspect to the service that you can recommend apps to other people. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to start the articles that are really good. Where is it? I think it's hang on. Get Pocket is the Pocket, and my list Q recommended. So I'm going to figure out how I create a Pocket list where I recommend things to you folks, and you guys can then see what I read. I don't know if it's of any interest to anyone or if anyone cares, but it was kind of interesting. I didn't realize I read that much on Pocket that I deserved, from their point of view, deserved to be in their top 1% of all the people that use Pocket. Dave D got a great point. Just discovered that DSLR wasn't for me. I'm giving mine to my son's significant other, and that's fair, Dave. DSLR aren't for everybody. ICBC says, top 1%, how many people use it? Good question. I don't know. I don't know how many subscribers Get Pocket or Pocket has. You probably find it out on the web somewhere. Dave D says, Shawn King, is this an iOS thing or a Mac thing? I'm not sure what you mean, Dave. The getpocket.com, you sign up on the website, and it's an iOS app. It's also an app on the Mac, and it's also a website. I use mostly the iOS app. And the thing is, one of the ways I use it is when I'm at a coffee shop. You know, if I'm waiting for somebody, if I'm at the airport, if I'm on the bus, I'll get on the motorcycle and I'll go for a drive. And when I want to stop, I can stop at the side of the road and read some stories, read some articles. It's for news, it's for information, it's recipes. I'll see a recipe on a website or a tidbit of information, and I'll click the little Get Pocket button and it saves it for me. Dave D says, I've used a bunch of those services, I never read it later. That's the problem. That's definitely the problem, is that even I, in top 1%, still have 500 articles in my queue. Now, granted, a lot of those articles, as I was going through them when I saw this, are kind of saved for later type things, articles that I don't need to read right now, but they're things I want to keep. A lot of photography-related stuff, a lot of Lightroom and Photoshop tips and trick kind of things that I'll save there. Recipes that I'll save in the app. I haven't yet transferred them over to my recipe app. There's a bunch of different ways to use it, but a lot of it's mostly current event type things. New York Times articles that at that moment I see the article. It's not something I want to read right now, but it's something I want to read in a few hours. I'm sitting on the couch watching TV or watching sports or things like that. So Brian Monroe says my audio is clipping a bit. All right, let me see if I can't turn my audio down. Dave D says, I'll have to try it. I tried Instapaper and didn't care for it much. Yeah, same with me. I just like the way Get Pocket works for me. I'm not saying Get Pocket is, I keep saying Get Pocket. Getpocket.com is the website. Pocket is the app. I just like the way Pocket works. I don't necessarily think it's better than Instapaper. I know a lot of people do love Instapaper. I don't care which one you use. But for me, I find Pocket works better than Instapaper does. So, as always, we encourage you guys to go to the website at yourmaclifeshow.com, especially right now, because our friend your friend and mine, DJ McIntosh has created we talked about this on last week's show, a Your Mac Life app for the Apple TV. So you can get apps on the new Apple TV. Well, DJ, all on his own, I didn't ask him to do this. I don't make any of the money. He's doing it on his own, has created a Your Mac Life app. And what you do is you go to the App Store on the Apple TV, do a search for Your Mac Life. And the cool thing is you can now watch the show, live version of the show, on the Apple TV with audio and video and all that kind of cool stuff. And DJ has it set up, I think he does anyway, with you can watch the archives too. You can listen and watch the archives of the show. It's only 99 cents, available, I think, probably only on the American iTunes App Store. If it's not, let me know. If it's available in other stores, I don't have an Apple TV, so I can't check. 99 cents. Thanks very much for DJ McIntosh for setting it up. That's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to be on the Apple TV, so thanks to DJ for doing that. DJ also, as he reminds me, made the old iYML app back in the day. Go to your website, yourmaclifeshow.com. Left-hand side, you can subscribe to Your Mac Life for $2, $5, $10, $15, whatever amount of money it is that you want to subscribe, donate to the show. That money comes out of your credit card or your PayPal account, comes into mine, and we put your name into the hat for the various drawings we do on random occasions. I know I should do it more often. I'm sorry, I don't. I'm sorry. As always, email to onair@yourmaclifeshow.com. And if you're an Amazon user, you can always come to our site before you go to Amazon. When you come to our site before you go to Amazon.com and click on one of the Amazon links on the left-hand side, whatever you buy at Amazon, you don't have to buy that thing that you clicked on, but whatever you do buy at Amazon, we get a bit of a kickback, or as Jay Curtis used to call it, a pimp fee. So we appreciate if you guys would do that. Jimmy Newton, does that make you the first Apple and Mac podcast in the Apple TV? And Brian says, nope, Twit was there before YML. Sadly, I'm okay with that. I've got enough firsts in this industry. I don't need to. I don't care if I'm first on that kind of stuff, so it doesn't matter. I don't know if this is true, but DJ, is there a way for folks, either through the app or some way to email you for comments or questions or suggestions, things like that? Or DJ, send me an email address, and I will tell folks on the show how they can contact you if they want to get. Brian Monroe has already given you some suggestions about ways to change it or make it better or whatever it might be. Go ahead and do that. Let me know what the email address would be for folks to ask you questions about it. Later on in the show, we're going to be talking about the best camera for you. Yes, we'll talk about that later on in the show. If you have any questions about that kind of stuff, send me emails to onair@yourmaclifeshow.com. But up next, we're going to talk to our good friend Jim Dalrymple from The Loop at loopinsight.com. This is Your Mac Life. Welcome back, folks. Thank you guys very much for joining us. This is Your Mac Life. I am Shawn King, joined on our phone by our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. Jim, how you doing?
Doing good.
So,
finished a workout.
Finished a workout. Now, you know what? I was thinking about that today, that whether or not you were still doing that and whether or not you were still seeing results with your workout. Are you still losing weight, or have you plateaued?
It goes up and down.
Yeah.
To be honest, but you know, I keep doing it and keep trying, and you know, that's all that I can do.
Yeah.
I've said before that I have good days, I have bad days,
yeah.
And really the only thing that I can do is to keep trying and, you know, keep hoping that it works.
But you're not ballooning up in weight. It's not like you're going up and down by 30 pounds.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No, I go up and down, you know, by a few pounds here and there, and you know, depending on what I do. If I'm at you know, an event or something like that, you know, you go out with friends and you do all that stuff. Sure, you're gonna gain a bit of weight, but it's not to the point where, you know, you're gaining stupid amounts of weight, and one day off of doing a workout, you don't gain 50 pounds, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm not ballooning and then going down and, you know, trying to work out just to get back to where I was or anything like that. I mean, but you always like to keep it off.
So when you say you just came back from a workout, are you talking about lifting Heinekens, or are you talking about an actual workout? Because some of those Heineken bottles can be kind of heavy.
They can be, and I do my best, you know. I do.
But are you actually going to a gym and working out with weights or treadmill? Or what are you actually doing?
No, just walking. You know, sometimes I'll try different things. You know, I have friends that, you know, work out all the time, so and they look like they work out.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
So they give me tips on things that I should do, and you know, those are always good to have. I mean, you know, they're like years more advanced than I am, so you know, I take from them what I can.
Lost your audio quality there, Jim. Did you move away from the microphone?
No.
No, your audio just went right down. What happened?
And is it back or?
Nope. Okay, hang on. Let me.
How about that?
No, you were moving. I heard you moving around. All of a sudden, we lost your audio. Come on, dude.
How about that?
Nope.
What the hell?
Oh, hang on. All right, try that.
Is it you?
Yeah, it was me.
God damn it. Man, oh man.
I turned the volume down on the phone.
Oh. Sometimes you just piss me off.
I know, man. Sometimes that pissed me off. Don't worry about it. Oh, Jesus. The other question I was going to ask you, it's got to be kind of hard to work out from underneath the overpass there.
Well, you know, the bridge makes it difficult at times. I'll admit that.
Hey, you had a follow-up column. Our friend Uncle Walt Mossberg, commented this morning, wrote an article about Apple's app problem, and you followed up with your own comments. Is part of the problem that we expect too much from Apple? I keep thinking that if this was a Windows issue, that we wouldn't be complaining nearly as much, because we kind of expect issues with Windows, even though they have gotten significantly better over the years. But is that part of the problem? Is that us nerds and geeks and hardcore users just expect too much from Apple?
No, I thought about that, and I don't believe so. I think the problem is that Apple delivered quality stuff in the past, and now that's what we expect from Apple, is quality stuff. And at this point, we're just not getting it. And, you know, when you end up, when you don't get what you expect, then it becomes a problem.
But are we also looking at the past through rose-colored glasses? Apple has delivered good stuff in the past, but they've also delivered some crap in the past. I mean,
oh, sure they have.
For us old-time users, we remember the iTunes update that deleted people's hard drives.
Yes.
We remember the awful 7.54 and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So aren't we just being too hard on Apple?
No, I don't think so, because at this point, and I'll take Apple Music because that's what I know the best.
Yep.
Apple executives stood on stage and said, this is what you can do with Apple Music. It's a great service. Well, it turns out you can't do what they said that you could do. So don't promise me something if you're not going to deliver it. I didn't go to Apple and say, your software sucks because I want to do this and you won't let me.
Yeah.
They said to me, here's what you can do, and I can't do it. And when I try and do it, things break. That's not my problem as a user. That's Apple's problem as a company. Now, I have to say, I've talked to a lot of people at Apple, and I know that those guys care about the software that they do. I know that. Yep. I don't mean to imply that the engineers don't care. I know that they do. But the fact is, software is being released that is not ready to be released.
Yep.
And that's a problem.
And I think one of my frustrations with it is that software is being released that wasn't ready to be released with issues that are easily found. That if we always hear people saying, does anyone at Apple actually use this software? Because you can see that this thing I'm trying to do doesn't work. And why doesn't anyone else notice this kind of stuff? I think of those. I don't mind the obscure bugs where, if you stand in your head in the light of a full moon and push these 7 keys on your Macintosh, things will crash. I get those kind of weird bugs. But the things that we're often talking about are weird interface stuff that just doesn't make any sense. Again, Apple Music being a perfect example of it, how things work differently on iOS from the Macintosh for no good reason. Yes, I understand there are different OSs and they have different interfaces, but there will be things that when I push this button on the Macintosh, this thing happens, but when I push the exact same button on iOS, something else completely different happens. That makes no sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I mean, I wish I could. I wish that I could argue the point that, no, Apple software is just fine.
Yeah.
It's not.
Is part of the issue, and this is maybe a slippery slope or a dangerous slope, that we've suddenly seen that can we point to Steve Jobs' death as the reason this is happening, where quality control seems to be lacking? We all know how much of a micromanager and anal Jobs was about these kinds of things. And it seems like that's when things started to go bad, was after he died. Would you agree with that?
I don't know. I mean, this whole iTunes thing about deleting the hard drive happened when Steve was alive. So there were things that happened when Steve was here too. And maybe it's because Apple is moving into so many different places now so quickly that these issues are coming up. But Apple needs to realize that maybe they just need to slow down some.
Yeah.
I mean, they were already years late to streaming. Why rush that? When it doesn't work. So, if they need to slow down, then slow down.
Exactly.
Get it right.
There's I think gone are the days when Apple had to rush things out and match or beat the competition, especially when it comes to OSs on the computer side nowadays. I don't think there's that much of a need for Apple to rush things on the Mac OS. Maybe there is on iOS, but you still get the sense that a lot of these things are literally half-baked. They just don't seem to come out of the oven the way they're supposed to, and it's very frustrating to users.
Now look at apps like Memos, music memos.
Yes.
That's an awesome app.
Yeah.
Get that team to write the rest of the apps. Because that's really good.
Is the only solution to have Apple slow down, to just not try to push things out the door so fast?
I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but they have to come up with something, and fast.
Now that brings up the question: do they? Is this something that only us nerds are talking about, or do you think this is actually affecting
No,
the way people are perceiving them in mainstream, the average consumer.
I think it affects everybody.
Yeah.
Because as soon as the average consumer loads one of these apps that doesn't work, then they're not going to use it. They're going to sell their iPhone. They're going to, not buy another one because, all they know is that it's Apple.
Yeah.
They don't know that it's an app or service or whatever.
Yeah, it's the frustration. Although I also will slightly defend Apple. I think you even used it in your column. I've seen it from other people, where people keep pointing to that "it just works" kind of thing. That was never a real thing. That was a marketing slogan from Apple. No computer, no operating system has ever just worked perfectly. Apple's always had a lot of problems. It just feels like the problems nowadays are more obvious and more solvable. Or just more well known.
I think that we could all agree years ago that Apple's software and hardware did just work. I mean, there was a long time where it didn't. Nothing worked.
Yeah.
Mac OS 7 and 8 and 9. They worked to varying degrees and didn't work to. And 10 as well. They got so much better in now we're coming to the point where holy shit, I'm almost afraid to install something.
Oh yeah, I'll give you that completely. I've stopped years ago. I wasn't the first guy to run out and get a new version of the OS. So the latest version of Mac OS 10 is sitting on my computer waiting to get installed, and I'm like, I don't have the time to screw around with that. I don't trust Apple anymore to not mess these software upgrades anymore. And that's not a good thing for the company.
No. None of this stuff is good for the company.
Do you think that because of people like you and Mossberg, a lot of us have been talking about this for a long time, but now it's sort of filtering up to the higher up muckety mucks like you guys, you think Apple's going to listen? Or is this going to be a matter of, as you said in your article, just a couple of whiners, just a couple of the nerds, we don't care?
Well, maybe. And if that's what they do, then that's their prerogative. They can do that. They won't stay on top forever like that. I mean, no company can expect to stay on top when their stuff doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I've said before, iCloud stuff works great for me because of the way I use it. I'm a normal, everyday, run-of-the-mill user. I don't expect major things from iCloud besides sync.
Mm-hmm.
But for Merlin told a story this morning that he has to input his password all the time, and when he doesn't do it on all of his devices, they don't back up anymore.
Jesus.
And he doesn't even know it. Does it silently. It just stops backing up. I mean, that's a problem.
It is. Yeah. And I think part of the problem is, from my point of view, is, and maybe Apple doesn't get this, but maybe it is just the nerds and the geeks, quote unquote, whining about this. But they're whining about it, and other people are listening to them. People like you and Merlin and Walt Mossberg have a voice, and they're speaking this out. Your column on The Loop today has got 40 comments on it already in just a few hours, and most people are agreeing with you. This stuff snowballs. This is now, these two guys have told their friends, and their friends are going to tell their friends, and so on and so forth. Now, I'm not going to get rid of my Macintosh because of this. I'm not going to not...
No.
Stop. I'm not going to switch to Windows 10 all of a sudden because of this. But It is an annoyance. It makes me less happy. I'm still happy, but it makes me less happy to use my Macintosh when this kind of stuff happens. Or I stop using services from Apple, like Apple Music. I've stopped using it.
Well, and Apple will say, well, we've got 10 million users, so it's growing, and that's that. And that's fine if that's the way that they want to look. I don't know if it is or not.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm just playing devil's advocate, but
we certainly know. You and I have both heard from the grunts on the ground at Apple when they email us and they write us and they say that from their point of view, they're still working as hard as they possibly can. Some of them are working too hard to make this stuff better. Right. So that's got to mean to me there's somewhere middle management and above isn't pushing these guys to either do better or not release stuff when it's not ready.
Well, see, and that's what I to me that's what it comes down to.
Yep.
When software gets released that is clearly broken, and those are the three things that I brought up in the story.
Yep.
That either, number one, Apple doesn't realize how broken the software is when they release it. Yep. I think that's highly unlikely because Apple does have a great Q&A team. Apple is so big that they just don't care anymore. Mm-hmm. And as I wrote there, I hope that it's not that one, because if it is, then we got big problems.
Yep.
And, lastly, that they were given a deadline. We're releasing it on this day,
yep.
ready or not.
No, that's right.
And, that one could be a probable cause, but that's pretty scary.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely it is.
So...
Talking about releasing things, there was a story, and I thought this was very odd that this story appeared on The Loop. Apple to debut new iPad, smaller iPhone at March 15th event. I have not heard a yup or a nope from you, and yet this rumor appeared on The Loop. What am I to make of this, Mr. Dalrymple?
I didn't post it.
But it's your website. I didn't post it. I don't know who. I got hacked. I was hacked. That's not my penis. That's what you just said.
I woke up and there it was. No, it is very interesting though.
I know you're not going to give me a yep or a nope, even though I would ask. You're not going to do it, so I won't ask.
Right.
Let's look at it from this point of view. Does this make sense? Does it make sense for Apple to break up this release cycle? I like the idea of Apple doing this, if only because A, it keeps everyone on their toes. B, it means they don't have to hold Apple. Tim Cook said this, that they're going to release stuff when it's ready.
Yeah.
They're not going to hold everything for September anymore. They're going to start releasing stuff, and you might see events in March, and maybe another one in July, and then the September one, and then the only thing you know is they won't do anything after American Thanksgiving. That's the Christmas break. But
yeah.
Does this make sense to you that they would do something in March?
You know what makes sense to me, and you already said it, that Apple will release product when it's ready.
Yeah.
That's what makes sense to me. And, Apple said that years ago about the stores,
mm-hmm.
if you remember. They asked, well, when will you open a store? When we get the property and stuff that we want,
yeah.
then we'll open a store. So we'll do it when we're ready. And that's what made them successful. And this is exactly what we're talking about with the software.
Mm-hmm.
They're releasing stuff when it's not ready.
Yeah, that's right. That's the irony of this.
I think what I said in the story is 100% correct. I believe that the version of Apple Music on iOS that we have right now is 1.0.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because things finally work. There are still bugs.
Yes.
I can make that Apple Music do dances with bugs. And I've told Apple about them.
Mm-hmm.
So there are still bugs there, but it's not a wretched piece of software that's tearing up my music collection.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is good. So I believe what we have now is 1.0. What we got last summer was probably beta 3.
Yeah, yeah.
And since then we've gone up through all the betas to 10, and now we're at 1.0. That's where I believe we are.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you on that. That's a good way to look at it. But that being said, if Apple thought this way, that would be irresponsible of them to foist a beta on the public and make us fight our
And
way through all the mistakes.
That's my whole thing.
Yep.
That is why I'm so disappointed in what Apple is doing.
Yep.
Because if somebody forced the iTunes team to release that software, then that's a bad move on their part.
Yep.
If the iTunes team said, "Oh, we're good to go," then that's bad on them.
Yep.
Either way, it doesn't matter which one it was. What matters is that, and I keep just so that your listeners know, I keep talking about Apple Music, but that's only because that's what I know so well.
Yeah.
I could talk about iCloud or reminders or whatever it is, but whatever piece of software it is, whoever decided to release it in a state of disrepair and non-functionality, that's a problem. That is a big problem. That kind of stuff can't happen.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move on to not a weird story. I'm very happy to see that none of us at the Loop posted anything about this. We heard earlier in the week Alphabet's market cap tops Apple, is now the world's most valuable company. And immediately afterwards, that changed. Why? I think the first happened 2 years ago when Apple first passed ExxonMobil to become the world's most valuable company, and it was a big story then.
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't it a big story now? Sorry, why shouldn't it be a big story now?
I don't know that. I think the only reason that it was a big story a couple of years ago is because Apple was almost bankrupt, 15 years ago. And, now they're the world's richest company.
Mm-hmm.
And, now that that's passed, people haven't really focused on that. Apple hasn't focused on it. And what Apple needs to focus on is being, the best, most profitable company.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they've tried to do overall is try and be this company that continues to innovate and continues to make good products. And, you go from there. And if you make $100 gazillion because of that, then you deserve that money. You deserve the title of world's richest company or whatever. But I don't think Apple really focuses on that one thing. If they did, then they could, put out 10 different models of iPhones and, just to sell them so that they could keep making, they wouldn't make as much money.
Yeah.
But they could keep selling products. And, Apple never worried about numbers. They worried about being profitable. And if you look at the who makes the most money in mobile, Apple pulls in like 95% of the cash. So, I really don't care one way or another if Apple's the richest company in the world.
Yeah, I think I completely agree, and that's exactly what I would have said too. It was a big story 2 years ago or whenever it happened because people may have forgotten or not known that at one point Apple, as you said, was almost bankrupt. Their shares were worth about $7 a piece. That, as we said on last week's show or 2 weeks ago, Sun Microsystems almost bought Apple. So for them, after 20 years, to have grown and become such a powerful and valuable company is really a story. But after that, and I'm not saying this because I'm an Apple fanboy, after that, it really doesn't make a lot of difference. It doesn't matter. No one knew before Apple beat Exxon who the most valuable company in the world was because no one actually cared.
Yeah.
And it's the same now. Okay, so Google's, the only thing it means is that Google's share price value is greater than Apple's. It has no effect on the companies. It has no effect on the products they make. It has no effect on the people, except for those who own and therefore want to sell Apple stock. The frustrating thing to me is, once again, our media outlets fall down explaining this to us. They don't tell us this is a non-story. Everyone treats it as if it's a story, and then on Monday, from the rooftops, everyone announced, oh, Google, Alphabet, now the most valuable company. Well, when it flipped on, I think, Tuesday evening or this morning, they didn't rewrite the stories. Everyone ignored it.
Yeah.
The story is a non-story. Anyone who reports on this story is a non-reporter because all you're dealing in is fluff and things that don't matter.
Yep.
I'm glad I got that off my chest.
Yeah, I'm glad you did too.
Speaking of exercise, did you see the story? Fitbits are now mandatory for students at Oral Roberts University in Oklahoma.
What is?
Fitbits.
Mandatory.
Mandatory. Students, freshmen have to now, and they have to buy their own Fitbit and report to the university on the Fitbit.
Fuck you.
Well, maybe, Jim, you don't know what Oral Roberts University is. Are you?
Here's a case of Heineken and a pack of smokes.
Okay. Let me back up a bit, Jim. Do you know what Oral Roberts University is?
It's a university.
Okay, yes, but do you know who Oral Roberts is or was? He's passed away.
He was one of the pilgrims.
No.
He came over on that the Daisy, or the Daisy boat.
The Nino de Maria, the Nino de Santa Maria, the Pinta, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he is one of the original televangelists, and this is a religious school. So yeah, they're not drinking beer, smoking cigarettes, or even having premarital sex.
Okay. I would have had a bad first day then.
Yeah, no kidding. I wouldn't have had any transcripts from these guys either. The weird thing is reading the story is that they're only doing this with Fitbits because the students had to write this stuff down before. They had to keep paper notes on their fitness levels and what exercise they did and their heart rates on paper. So, if nothing else, this is now more convenient for the students. But my question is, why?
I don't know.
Why are you forcing college students to do this? There's no reason, and I don't know why there isn't more of a civil liberties stink about this. Maybe because it's a private university, and when you sign on to become a student there, you give up all your rights. Like I said, they're not allowed to, there's no drinking on campus, no smoking, there's basically no vice.
So all they can do is have sex all day?
No, they can't even have sex all day.
Come on.
No, they can't. See, I kind of get, I'm hearing more stories about corporations in America either giving rebates to employees or actually buying employees fitness devices so the employees can get fit, but not forcing them to use it. And the reason is, it makes perfect sense. If you have fit employees, you pay less in healthcare costs. That makes perfect sense. But that doesn't make any sense for a university to make their students report their fitness levels. Now, the university says they don't gather any personal information. Does anyone actually believe that?
No.
I don't believe that for a second. And the other thing is they don't track the students once the end of semester. I don't understand why this isn't a big frickin' deal. This is really weird and creepy.
Well, let's see who it comes from.
What do you mean who it comes from?
Well, look at the university.
Yes, yeah, true. Yeah, I don't understand. Don't understand. Dave Mark over on The Loop posted this fascinating story. My bathroom mirror is smarter than yours. Did you see that this morning?
I did not. How did I miss that?
This is really cool. This guy says, when I couldn't buy a smart mirror, I made one. Now, first of all, I admire anybody who can make anything. I am mechanically incompetent. I am tool challenged. I cannot use hand tools or power tools. So anybody who can build stuff fascinates me. So this guy decided that he wanted a mirror that was a smart mirror that would actually have data on the mirror. Now, I don't stand in front of a mirror long enough each day to worry about this kind of stuff, but it's kind of neat. He's got a hack so that it shows data on the mirror. It's being projected from behind the mirror onto the surface of the mirror, so he gets weather updates, he gets, I think he gets email, and he gets text, and he gets information on the mirror. I think it's really, really cool.
I'd never see it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the same way. I just don't. I go in I brush my teeth twice a day. That's the most I ever spend staring in a mirror. Maybe then you'd want to see the weather or something. So I don't find it that useful. I just think the idea is really, really cool.
Yeah.
He's got the time up there. He's got the weather, the date, precipitation chances, all kinds of really, really interesting stuff on this thing. Yeah, you got to read the story. This is apparently the guy's a Google engineer, and that he's getting ready to. I don't know if he's going to make this a commercial product or not, or whatever the story is. But it's a really cool idea. And how about you? Are you mechanically inclined? Can you build stuff there underneath the overpass?
Oh God, no. I'm scary with tools.
I know, man. I'm the same way. I'm a complete disappointment to my engineer father. My dad was an engineer, and he was just like, I can't believe you're my son. You can't build, and you can't use a hammer. I was just completely incompetent.
Yeah, no. That stuff's not for me.
I think the most interesting story of the past week, and a non-Mac story, was this analyst call from the operator of the largest series of malls in the United States. And he apparently let it slip that Amazon is about to start making real-life bookstores, like physical bookstores. And I read this story, and it was like one of those stories where you had to go look and see if it wasn't from The Onion.
Yeah.
Because you're like, no, it's Amazon. They're the one who killed bookstores. Did you read this story?
Yeah, it is amazing.
It's just it's bizarre, isn't it? Why would you think Amazon was going to do this?
I never would have guessed it, but just because of what Amazon is known for, and Amazon has a great brand.
Sure. Oh yeah.
And they have a great brand for going online, buying something, and having it delivered the next day.
Yep.
I don't know if I'd even go to an Amazon store. Why would I?
Well, from what I've been reading, it's going to be a typical bookstore. So if you go to bookstores now, you're liable to go to a bookstore from Amazon.
Yeah, I suppose.
But the thing I love the line in the Wall Street. This is the kind of thing that companies or reporters write. And they go back to it and think themselves, oh, why did I write that? The great line in it, physical stores would give Amazon customers a place to leaf through books before buying them. Really? Is that how that works?
Yeah.
Has it been so long since this dude was in a bookstore that he's forgotten how books work?
Wow.
But it's to me, it seems antithetical to why Amazon became Amazon, was that they were selling books over the internet. Why would you now build physical stores? And to be clear, the mall CEO has walked back his statement saying that, yes, I said that, but I wasn't saying these were Amazon's plans. Dude, you said Amazon was going to build 300 new bookstores. I don't know how you can walk that back. I don't know how you can say, oh, no, I said it, but I didn't actually mean it.
Good luck with that.
Good luck with that. So it sounds like, and then today, Recode posted a story of they found out some more interesting tidbits where Amazon's going to open this up in California and then slowly expand this outwards as they get more experience. And then it won't just be bookstores. It sounds like Amazon's going to get into general retail and do some interesting things. One of the comments that the Recode story was, you would simply do what happens at the Apple Store to a certain degree. You would put the book in your bag, and as you walk to the door, it would charge you. In other words, you'd have an app on your phone that would know that you would pick this book up, or the book would Bluetooth, whatever, communicate to your phone that said Shawn's walking around with his book. When he walks to the door, charge him, kind of thing. Which may or may not be a convenient thing. I don't know. It's just interesting tidbit. But yeah, it just seems funny to me that Amazon, after going through all this effort to kill bookstores, they would actually bring them back, maybe.
Fun stuff.
Folks, I've been talking to Jim Dalrymple from The Loop at loopinsight.com. He has his own, very own podcast, the Dalrymple Report, on the iTunes Store, along with Amplified. Those are both available on the iTunes Store. Subscribe. I encourage you to do that. Jim, thanks for joining me, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Shawn.
Have a good night. See ya.
Bye.
Where's I going with that? Yeah, this just seems weird that Amazon would do that. If I was a traditional bookseller, I'd be like, up yours, Amazon. You tried to kill us. You're still trying to kill us. Why would you go to... I wonder if physical book lovers would still go to an Amazon store. I don't know if I would. I love bookstores. I go into a bookstore probably once a week just to walk around. I don't always buy a book, but just to walk around. I love physical bookstores. And I kind of hate what Amazon's done, especially to small booksellers. Even large booksellers have collapsed. So I don't know if I'd go to an Amazon store just out of principle. I would probably be more likely to go to my local bookseller. The problem is there's so few local booksellers nowadays. The problem is Amazon's liable to be able to sell books for cheaper, and people are generally price conscious. Brian Monroe says, Shawn, they already do have a bookstore in Seattle now, but that was, Amazon said that was a test. They were just sort of playing around. Obviously, they were probably preparing for what's to come. Mosquito says Amazon is a Walmart of online retailer. Yeah, I couldn't disagree with that assessment of it. And that's not a good thing either. That's definitely not a thing to be proud of. That's for sure. In our starting point photography segment, I was very lucky and happy and had a blast. I went up to Prince George, British Columbia, a few weeks ago with my friend Vito Mori and a bunch of his Prince George Macintosh user group folks to teach two classes. One on how to shoot better photos no matter what camera you have, and another one on how to get the most out of your DSLR. And then this past weekend, I was here downtown Vancouver doing a photo critique class. Basically, it's a free class. We just sat around and had beers and food and look at the photos. The idea was that these folks would send me their photos, and then we would sit around in a group, about 20 of us, and critique the photos, the good and the bad. Positive vibe. That was the thing that's important to me, that I'm not going to ever tell anyone, you're a shitty photographer, go away. Luckily, I didn't have to do that. There were some great shots from these folks. Let me see if I can't pull this up and show you guys some of the we were talking about. But whenever I do any kind of event, any kind of online, not online, but in-person thing, or talk to folks about photography or about cameras or anything like that, one of the first questions I get from people is, what's the best camera for me? What camera should I buy? And it's really, really a hard question to answer. The answer in general for me is, oh crap! Sorry, I can't. I'm trying to get this thing to show you guys what I'm seeing here. The answer for me generally is, I can't answer the question because I don't know who you are. There are as many different kinds of cameras as there are kinds of people. There are as many different styles of photography as there are of people. There is no such thing as the perfect camera. There's no such thing as this one camera is going to be the best camera for you. It's just not possible to be able to give advice in that kind of way. If only because the way photography works, it's so personal for each person that each person has a different opinion of what makes a photo that they want to see. I'm vamping here while I try to get this thing up and running so you guys can see what I'm looking at over here. Hang on a second. Go full screen, and then close that one, and then okay. So it just gives you guys a little bit of a sense of the kind of shots I was getting from the folks in the class. Oh, come on. When I said go full screen, I meant go full screen. Thank you. Thank you. Why won't this stuff go away? Go away. Go away. Oh, of course, I can make it bigger, can't make it smaller. All right, whatever. So, there we go. So I got some great shots from the students in the class. Some really interesting, artistic, these are all the edited shots. These are all the after shots after I made some corrections for them. But the interesting thing is that there is a huge wide range of cameras that folks bring to these classes. I get people who come into the class have got iPhones, folks who come to the classes and they've got point and shoots and they've got DSLRs. The number one camera phone I see is the iPhone. The point and shoots are all over the map, usually Nikons and Canons. The DSLRs are exactly what the DSLR market is, about 60% Canon, then 30% Nikon, and then 10% other. And of the Canons, the vast majority of the Canons are versions of the Rebel, the TSI, whatever, XTI, whatever Canon's calling the Rebel this time around. The way to find out what the best camera is for you is to look at the photography you're doing now. Now, ArcSign says the best camera for you fits your hand and presents the image it will take to your eye, and it doesn't cause you to turn into some rabid monster. Don't buy a cursed camera. I'm not sure what that means. MacMan says one guy got semi-mad at me when he asked what the best camera we sold was, and I pointed at the Nikon D5300. Why did he get mad at you? Brian Monroe says the camera you should purchase is an iPhone. If that's what you want, it's not the best camera. It depends on what kind of photographer you are, what kind of shots you like to take. And the way I explain it to folks is, do you like the pictures you're taking now? Do you think the pictures you're taking now are good pictures? Do you enjoy taking pictures with the camera you have now? Or does the camera you have now frustrate you in some way, shape, or form? You can't get the shots you want to get with the camera you have now. If you're fine with the shots you get now and with the camera you have now, there's no need to buy a new camera. Jim is a perfect example of this. He likes his iPhone shots. He likes the shots he takes with the iPhone, doesn't need them to be better. Therefore, I would never try to convince Jim to get a bigger or better camera. He's happy with his iPhone. If you're unhappy with your shots, figure out why you're unhappy. Is it because you can't get close enough? Is it because the shots are always too dark? You're always shooting in areas where it's low light, and therefore you can't get good pictures in low light? Work at it from that point of view. Don't, as someone is pointing out in the IRC chat room, some folks will go into Best Buy and say, I want to buy a new camera. And the guy at Best Buy will say, how much you want to spend? No, that's the wrong question. The first thing any camera seller should tell you is, what kind of photos do you want to take? What kind of photographer are you? And that will direct you to what the best camera is for you. Now, everyone who takes my class already has a camera. Some of them are looking to get another camera or a better camera. And the first thing I always tell them is, don't do that until you've maxed out the camera you have. Until you know everything there is to know about your iPhone, or about your point and shoot, or about your DSLR. If you don't understand the camera you're using now, buying a new camera is going to make a difference. If you don't take good shots with the camera you have now, if you don't understand how to take good shots with the camera you have now, a new camera is going to help you. If you don't understand photography now, getting a bigger camera is not going to make any difference. One of the things I always tell folks is most of the time when you buy a DSLR, it comes with what's called a kit lens. And the kit lenses are usually an 18 to 55 millimeter lens on it. And people say, well, I need to buy a new lens. Maybe. Only if you already know what kind of photographer you are. Only if you've maxed out the capabilities of that lens. I used my Nikon D50 for years. And it wasn't until I couldn't capture the shots I could imagine in my mind's eye, shots I knew I could get, when the limitations were on the camera and not on me as a photographer, that's when I bought a new camera. So don't automatically buy a new camera simply because it's on sale or because it's physically bigger or it's got a better ISO than the camera you have. You may not want a DSLR, as the IRC chat room says. Some folks just don't want a DSLR, and those are the big, bulky ones. You may be perfectly happy with a small mirrorless camera like this. Still has the interchangeable lenses, but it's physically much smaller. This is the the Olympus M1 that everyone knows that I absolutely love. Or maybe you're perfectly happy with your iPhone. You may have seen the story that we ran in the Loop, and lots of other folks did, about Apple and the new Shot on iPhone 6 campaign. That's a great campaign. I love that campaign. Not just for the beautiful photographs, but it shows folks what they can do with an iPhone. It shows when you know what you're doing, you can take some amazingly good pictures with the iPhone. And don't let anyone tell you any different. I will say in my classes that the iPhone is a great camera for a phone. Sorry. Yes. It's a great camera for a phone. It's got a lot of limitations. But if you work within the limitations of the iPhone, you can take some amazing pictures. Now, you're not taking good notice. None of those pictures are of race cars going down a track. They're not pictures of eagles in trees off in the woods, because the iPhone doesn't do well with those kinds of shots. And if those are the kind of shots you want to take, obviously you can't use an iPhone for it. So know what kind of photographer you want to be before you start looking for new equipment or better equipment or more expensive equipment. Mosquito says, I'm pretty happy with my iPhone's camera. I suspect it might have taken better concert arena pictures than my Nikon's presets did. DJ McIntosh says, every picture I take looks like snow falling. It's all blurry. Well, DJ, aren't you blind? Oh, no, hang on. I'm sorry. Shawn, how can I take a good picture of falling snow with an iPhone camera? That's a good question. iPhone 6 Plus. The thing I teach in the class is you need to, when you want to create an image, you have to think about it. So think about the image. You want to get falling snow. So that's motion. So to capture motion on any camera, you have to be able to control the shutter speed. So you need to speed up or slow down the shutter speed. Now, you can't do that in the native iPhone app. All right, you need to buy a third-party app. One that just came out, or an update just came out today of this one. Let me see if I can't find it for you, DJ. Pro Camera, it's called. And of course, I can't find it right away. I just had it. Procamera.com. Procamera.com. Procamera-.com is what you're looking for, DJ. It is a really good app. It does some really cool stuff. It will allow you to control the shutter speed, among other things, of your iPhone. So give that one a try first. Pro Camera. The problem is, don't expect a whole lot when it comes to those kinds of shots. Your iPhone may not be able to, it depends on the lighting conditions too. So let me give you the website. ProCamera-app is the website. I think it's $5. They've just done a new version of it that's got better HDR. But that's what you need to do, DJ, is you need to control the shutter speed and what am I trying to think of? And speed up the shutter to capture snow in the air, or slow down the shutter in order to get streaks of snow. And it'll take a lot of practice. I'll tell you that right now. On the iPhone, you'll be working kind of hard, but give that one a try to see if that app would work for you. There's a bunch of others. Manual camera app is also one that you can use to change some of the parameters on the iPhone, shutter speed and exposure and things like that. You can't change the aperture. The aperture on the iPhone is fixed at f2.2, but other apps, other free and paid for apps will allow you to mess around with those kinds of things. So give that a try. Any other questions? Anyone played with a Lytro lately? Now, I've never bothered with the Lytro camera. It was Dave D. It seems too much of a gimmick to me. And while I've interviewed the Lytro guys, and I have used them, the word I want to use is lazy. It feels like lazy photography. It's not, because what for those folks who don't know, a Lytro is a light field camera, and there's no focusing involved. The way it works is it focuses everywhere all at the same time, and then you the user can then choose the focus point on the camera after you've taken the picture. It's kind of a cool thing. It's kind of a neat technology, but it's not something I've ever had a whole lot of interest in. Yeah, Dave D, I thought it was a bit weird, and it's, for a good one, it's fairly expensive too. That's another downside of it. You can get a really good beginner DSLR for the same price as one of the Lytros that gives you a lot more options too. So keep that in mind when you're looking for those kinds of things. As always, I tell you guys, ask you guys, send me emails to onair@yourmaclifeshow.com. If you have any questions about things that we've talked about on the show or comments or things like that, I want to remind you again also that DJ Macintosh has got a iPhone or Apple TV app for those folks who are lucky enough to have an Apple TV. DJ has created our very own, very first Apple TV app for the YML show. If you check it out, you go to the iTunes store, the App Store on the Apple TV, and it will allow you to search for Your Mac Life. And at 99 cents, you download it. You can watch the show live off your Apple TV, or you can watch archives of the show at some point in the future. I know DJ is going to work hard at making changes and fixing it up. His email address is djmacintosh@gmail.com if you want to check it out and send him any comments. djmacintosh@gmail.com. Thanks for doing that, DJ. I appreciate it. By the way, I make no money off it. I'm not pimping it because I get cash. I'm pimping it because I think it's a cool idea. Les Posen in Australia says, NYU prof Scott Galloway predicted bricks and mortar Amazon stores 6 months ago as used gas stations or Radio Shack stores. I don't think that's going to happen, but I can definitely see it might happen at some point in the future. It's still a weird thing to contemplate, that the company who, like I said, is rightfully accused of, at least, if not killing brick and mortar stores, definitely stabbing them in the back several times. Got an email from Tom Patterson. Is there a way to send ideas into Apple? I have some things I'd like to suggest I think are pretty interesting. Well, you can always send an email to feedback@apple.com, but I wouldn't recommend it. Apple is legally not allowed to take random ideas from people. They won't even accept them. They legally will tell you, don't tell us that, because there are too many issues involved, and we've seen them in the past with people saying that so-and-so stole my idea. So what Apple does is they refuse to even listen to your idea. Feedback@apple.com is for suggestions of bug fixes and I wish this would happen. It's like, yeah, but if you have this idea that for a new app or a new process, things like that, it's going to be very difficult to get through to Apple with regards to that, because they're kind of skittish about those sorts of things. Brian Monroe says, yeah, you can also go to www.apple.com/feedback for more information about that. Our friend Paul Driver, there's this issue with passwords and which passwords to use. And, I recommend to folks, don't use passwords, that are easy to figure out, but also don't use passwords from those security questions. Sometimes the security question will be, what's your hometown? Well, that's easy to figure out. Don't answer that honestly. What's the name of your first car? Well, some people could figure that out. So what I recommend to some folks is just lie with that stuff. Make things up. Pick a different hometown. Pick your favorite city as your hometown. Pick your favorite car when they ask you what was the make and model of your first car. Things like that. Don't make it easy. The folks at 1Password actually recommend that you lie too. I recommend you use 1Password, because if you use 1Password, you only have to have one password that you can remember, and your other passwords can be complete gibberish. You know, your hometown, the town you were born in, could be Minsk, or it could be Outer Mongolia, or it could be Saturn. Doesn't matter. It could be just random letters and numbers, and 1Password will remember that for you. Paul Driver linked to this on Facebook. This was from a lady named Susan Dunser near Auckland, New Zealand, and she said, and this is also by Soleil Rezayadzi. Sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, but these are nihilistic password security questions. What is the name of your least favorite child? In what year did you abandon your dreams? What is the maiden name of your father's mistress? In what city did you first experience ennui? What is your ex-wife's newest last name? Oh, dear. On what street did you lose your childlike sense of wonder? And finally, when did you stop trying? I just absolutely love those. They just crack me up, the fact that there would be these nihilistic password security questions. Thanks very much to Paul Driver for linking to that on Facebook. It just cracked me up. And Jason Painter wanted me to not clear something up, but inform me. We were talking about his shots last week on from Australia Day. And he said, thanks for talking about my iPad Pro workflow and photos. It's a treat to hear you talk about my photos and that you shared them. He said, I didn't know about aliasing my account to make a human-friendly URL. He did that now. Good. So it's flickr.com/photos/Japester68. Now, remember I kind of laughed at the picture of the boat that had Golden Gay Time on it? Well, it turns out Golden Gay Time ain't what you think. It's not what I thought. Golden Gay Time is an old Australian ice cream. It's so old that when they named it, gay didn't have the connotation it has now. I think it's pretty cool they never changed the name. It's also pretty good. It's vanilla ice cream with a thin coating of caramel and biscuit crumbs. I wouldn't like it. I don't like stuff in my ice cream. But yeah, I think it's very cool that this Golden Gay Time ice cream, they didn't change their name. I think that's wonderful. Good for them. Good for them. For those folks, I wrote about this on The Loop. If you use the Copy app, they're shutting it down. For those folks who wanted to use Copy as a alternative to Dropbox or an adjunct to Dropbox, the Copy folks announced on Monday they're shutting it down. So get your stuff off of Copy. It's a shame, too, because you could get a lot more free data from Copy than you could from Dropbox. But that's probably why they're shutting it down, too, is that people were using up a lot of their free data. They never found a way to make money on it. Mosquito says, I saw that notice about Copy, deleted my account. They gave a lot of space, but the app wasn't as convenient as Dropbox. Yeah, I certainly agree with that. Brian Monroe says, Shawn, then you would not like Cold Stone Creamery. No, I don't like Cold Stone. I don't like stuff in my ice cream. I like my chocolate ice cream or French vanilla with chocolate syrup on it. I don't want bits and walnuts and things in my ice cream. I just want it ice cream, nothing else. Alesh, what? Not like chocolate chips and say coffee ice cream? Nope. Mosquito wants pecans and his butter pecan? Nope. Arcsign, mint and chocolate chip, mint and chip? Nope. I don't. Same with with regular chocolate. I don't like nuts and stuff in my like chocolate bars. Just personal preference. That's how my as a kid. That's how my mom would stop me from eating all the fudge or all the brownies. I was a short, fat kid, and I ate a lot. And my mom would make fudge, and I could literally sit down and eat a whole, 9 by 13 pan of fudge. So she'd put in the fudge. She would put coconut. I hate coconut. I can't eat coconut flavored things, let alone things with actual coconut in them. So Mom would put coconut in the fudge. I couldn't eat the fudge. And with brownies, she'd put walnuts in the brownies. And so I couldn't eat the brownies because there was stuff in the brownies. I don't know. Arcsign likes gummy bears and ice cream. All right. Yeah, I'm not saying those things are bad. I'm just saying I don't like them. Dave C., a friend is using Dropbox to transfer photos between her Mac and iPad. The photos appear on the iPad in Dropbox, listed there by date. How does one get them moved to, say, Photos or another app for editing? In Dropbox, I see a Move button, but it doesn't open a file dialog like I'm used to seeing in OS X. It does provide a means for creating a new folder, but if its destination isn't selectable, why offer this? Photos appear on the iPad and Dropbox listed by date. I want to get them moved to, say, Photos. What you have to do is open them from inside of Photos. Or in Dropbox, you have to do a save as and have it saved to your camera roll or your Photos app. It's not an elegant way of doing it. Trust me, it's not a good way of doing things. Dropbox isn't really meant to work that way, I don't think. To get a bunch of photos off of it onto your iPad, I think you have to select each one and do that one at a time. I know it's a giant pain in the ass process. I think I've had to do it a couple of times. It's no fun at all. Folks, that looks like that's it for tonight's show. I want to say thanks very much, as always, to our good friend Jim Dalrymple from The Loop at loopinsight.com. Thanks very much to DJ McIntosh for creating the YML app. We're officially on the Apple Store for the Apple TV. So if you so choose, if you have a new Apple TV, go to the App Store, do a search for YML, or do a search for Your Mac Life. Download the app. It's only 99 cents. And give a few pennies to DJ McIntosh. As always, I want to say thanks to you guys for joining me here. I appreciate it. And thanks to Sherry. Sly wasn't here, so Sherry was our official greeter this evening. And she did a bang-up job, even though she was FaceTiming all night long. Teasing you, Sherry. Thanks very much for doing that. I appreciate it. Folks, until next week, as always, I've been Shawn King, and you've been listening to Your Mac Life. See ya!